citizens of the world. On September 22, 2012, a police officer from Houston fatally shot and killed a man. The man was one-armed, one-legged and in a wheelchair. Yes, he had only one arm and one leg. Yes, he was in a wheelchair. Yes, this man was a handicapped person. Citizens, was he really a threat to any police officer? Police stated the man threatened the officer and aggressively waved a metal object. This object turned out to be a pen. Police spokeswoman Jody Silva said the man cornered the officer in his wheelchair and was making threats while trying to stab the officer with the pen. At the time, the officer did not know what the metal object was that the man was waving, stated Silva. She said the man came within inches to a foot of the officer and did not follow instructions to calm down and remain still. Fearing for his partner's safety and his own safety, he discharged his weapon, Silva told the Associated Press. So, let's see, two officers, the wheelchair, a man with half his limbs and a pen, right? We find it very hard to believe these officers were in any way, shape, or form in extreme danger. Police did not immediately release the name of the man who was killed. They had been called to the home by a caretaker in the home. The caretaker called and reported that the man was causing a disturbance. The owner of the group home, John Garcia, told the Houston Chronicle. The man had a history of mental illness, and had been living in the house close to 18 months. Garcia said the man had told him he lost his leg above the knee, and all of one arm when he was hit by a train. Mr. Garcia stated to the newspaper, he sometimes would go off a bit, but you just ignore it. Police have identified the officer as Matthew Jacob Marin. This officer was only a 5-year veteran of the department. He has been placed on a 3-day administrative leave, which is standard in all shootings involving officers. Houston police records indicate that Officer Marin also fatally shot the suspect in 2009. The investigators at the time said, Marin came upon a man stabbing his neighbor to death at an apartment complex and opened fire when the suspect refused to drop the knife. Maybe this officer found that shooting an individual is an easy task. Maybe he becomes sexually excited now at being able to discharge his weapon and take someone's life. Human life is precious and should be respected and protected at all times. This recent killing only shows one thing. This officer, Mr. Marin, himself is mentally incompetent and most likely mentally unstable. He does not possess the mental skills needed to rationalize during an altercation. Is this what they teach in the academy? When confronted by a mentally ill person, handicapped and in a wheelchair, shoot and ask questions later. We have a few questions for you, Officer Matthew Jacob Marin. Did you enjoy killing this citizen? Were you bullied as a child? Do you think that your badge and gun gives you the right to execute a civilian who was no threat? Are you from a dysfunctional family? Do you abuse women and children as well? Did the devil ask you to do this? Ms. Silva, Houston police representative stated, on Saturday, Marin and his partner arrived at the group home around 2:30 in the morning. There were several people in the house at the time. The caretaker who called police waited on the porch. The officers went inside. It was close quarters in the area of the house. She ended her statement with this final sentence. The officer was forced into an area where he had no way to get out. Repeating, the officer was forced into an area where he had no way to get out. We anonymous find it hard to believe that an officer with 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 feet was without another option. We believe a person with the ability to use rational thinking could undoubtedly find a way to outmaneuver a handicapped person in a wheelchair. A man with only 1 leg and 1 arm. Do you honestly believe there was no other alternative? Do you honestly believe this man would have been able to end your life as you did his? It is officers like you, who do not deserve to wear any badge. You have put a permanent tarnish on your badge and the badge of all good officers around. The man, Brian Clonch, who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, was swinging an object that was later identified as a silver pen. Police say that Clonch cornered one of the officers and ignored orders, so the officer's partner shot and killed him. Officer Matt Marin, in fear of the safety of his partner and the safety of himself, discharged his duty weapon, and fatally struck Mr. Brian Clonch. The unnamed Houston police spokesperson said later Sunday that Marin himself was not cornered, unlike his partner, when he shot the wheelchair-bound man in the head. According to investigators, Clonch was shot once and he died at the scene. So, Officer Marin was not even the officer cornered by Mr. Brian Clonch. Yet, Officer Marin pulled his service revolver and shot the victim once in the head, by means no other than execution. What you have done to a human life will not be forgotten. What you have done will not go unpunished. We anonymous. We the citizens. We the children of our chosen God. We ask you one last question. Will you do what needs to be done and remove your badge and lay down your gun? We are Legion. We are anonymous. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Houston Officer Matthew Jacob Maher. Expect
Caretakers called police when they say the man who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia became aggressive. When they arrived, he threatened the police with what appeared to be a metal object that turned out to be a pen.
Did he ever feel threatening to you? Because those officers felt threatened this morning.
He had a temper. He could fly off once in a while.
The caretaker who was inside of this home at the time of the shooting was asked by police officers to step out of the home. It was at that point when he was standing out here on the sidewalk that he heard a single gunshot inside of the home.
A wheelchair-bound man is dead after an officer opens fire. That officer says the man was waving something in a threatening manner. It turns out that man was holding a pen.
Andrew Horansky is in Southeast Houston with more on what happened early this morning. Andrew.
Vicente, it all started early this morning at that house across the street. It is a group home for men with medical disabilities. They come here when they're released from hospitals and they're under 24-hour supervision. This afternoon, I spoke with the home's manager. He told me 3 residents were living here and that one of them had a bad episode this morning. He identified the man as Brian Clonch, a man in his mid-40s with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He had been living here for more than a year. He said around 2:30 this morning, Clonch began demanding cigarettes and soda and became irate when a worker told him he'd have to wait for that. Eventually, that person called 911 and police arrived. 2 officers went in. They say the suspect soon cornered one of them and ignored their orders, so the officer shot and killed him. However, there are some serious questions since it turns out Clonch was a wheelchair-bound double amputee. He had 1 leg and 1 arm and a pen in his hand.
Did he ever feel threatening to you? Because those officers felt threatened this morning.
He had a temper. He could fly off once in a while. So I don't know. I'm not trying to justify or say he did anything or they did anything.
Garcia said that Clonch could be a likable guy when he wanted to be. It's still unclear whether the lights were on or off this morning. According to HPD, the quarters in there are very cramped, which was a factor in that officer's decision this morning. Reporting live in Southeast Houston, I'm Andrew Horansky, KHOU 11 News.
Fighting with weapons of mass information. We are anonymous. We are Legion. We are united as one. We are divided by 0. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.